Thank you. Good afternoon. It is 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. We will call the City Council meeting of the City of New Ulm to order. First item of business is the consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll move it.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Item number 2.1 is a public hearing on the proposed 2025 surface reconstruction project. This is in regards to the street department construction project, and this is a public hearing. If you would care to be heard, please come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Madam President, if I may, before we open the public hearing.
Sure.
Just a quick summary on the improvements. So this is, City Council has scheduled a public hearing for the 2025 surface reconstruction project. As you stated, this is a project that is done by city forces on streets where minimal subgrade correction is anticipated and no underground utility work is needed. The proposed project allows for the removal and replacement of the existing bituminous surfacing. This project was included in the 2025 capital improvement plan engineering report, which you adopted on November 19th, 2024. The engineering report recommends that the benefit for the project be specially assessed at 45% of the full reconstruction rate, which equates to $2,140 per adjacent single-family residential parcel, and an incremental benefit for multifamily and non-residential parcels. It'd be my recommendation today that we open the public hearing and go through the project locations one by one. Just do want to remind the council that in order to order in improvements, the council needs a 4/5 majority vote on those improvements being ordered in. So if it's all right with you, Madam President, I'd recommend we open the public hearing.
Yes, so moved. Public hearing is now open. We will read through the 5 projects for the 2025 surface reconstruction. Project 1 is 23rd North Street from North Broadway to Terrace Drive. Project 2 is a...
Someone wants to speak
thank
on
you.
23rd.
No, that's okay. Hi.
Rick Trollick, 729 23rd North. I just wanted to state my opinion on the project. I think it needs to be done, but there has been excessive truck traffic on my road for the last 4 years. When I did North Broadway, they had many trucks. When they hauled all the gravel out of the gravel pit behind me for the last 3 years, I mean, there's over 200-300 trucks full of gravel a day. And when they did Boundary Street last 2 years, there was massive truck traffic on my street. So I do not think that it's right for me to pay the full amount, because I thought there were a little bit more than what should have been traffic-wise on that road. I mean, it's not normal wear and tear for 200-300 trucks full of gravel, tar, sand, whatever, to drive on a city street a day.
Thank you.
Madam President, City Councilors, in the past, it's been the policy of the City Council and the assessment policies that have been adopted that the assessments are levied per parcel regardless of the usage. There hasn't been, at least in past practice, there hasn't been a determination to reconstruct the street, not assess it just because it was on a truck route or in a more heavily traveled roadway segment. So I guess our recommendation would be to continue with that policy, to not differentiate between what one considers excessive traffic or non-excessive traffic on the roadway segment.
Well, it's not one person's opinion. I mean, you could sit on my road any day in the last 2 years and see these trucks. I mean, my house is full of dust from these trucks. I mean, it isn't 1 or 2 trucks. It's hundreds of trucks a day. So there's a difference between excessive and a little bit. This is way excessive, in my opinion.
Is this reconstruction project being done early at all, or is it on schedule?
The roadway segment is 26 years old, so it's right in that 25 to 30 years old expected useful life.
Is the $2,100, is that able to be broken up, or does it need to be paid in full in one payment?
The assessments, we're not adopting the assessments today. That'll be a future public hearing, most likely in the fall of 2026. The assessments are payable over a 10-year period. We haven't sold bonds yet, so we don't know what that interest rate's going to be. But they are payable, any unpaid balance would be payable over a 10-year period.
Okay.
Thank you, counselors. I just wanted you to know my opinion.
Thank you so much.
It's been 25 years since it's had major work done?
99 was,
Yeah.
99, yep, exactly correct, yep.
Chris DeVries, 713 23rd North. Just want to expand on that a little bit. The excessive truck traffic for all the projects that have been going on. When they were doing the pit at the bottom of the hill, the retention pond, literally there was a truck going up and down that road every 35 to 45 seconds for an extended period of time. Same with the Boundary Street and the extension of Boundary Street, the new one going down to the Boisman. When this road was originally designed, was it designed for truck traffic? And if not, would that have played a part in the way the road is now?
So the roadway, that's a good question. The roadway is currently constructed with 5 inches of bituminous pavement, which is above our normal residential street. So we're proposing to go back at 4 inches, what would be a normal residential street, but it was constructed originally slightly beefier than what we would consider a local residential street.
And you're saying at this time, the reconstruction plans to go with the 4 inches of bituminous
Correct,
instead
yep.
of 5? Can you tell me why we would go back?
Well, now with the completion of Boundary Street or North Highland Avenue, that segment of 23rd is now signed, no trucks, so truck traffic should not be using that. So we felt it would be appropriate to reconstruct that with a residential section.
I'd like to thank you for the truck signs. That has definitely helped on that street. It's it's quiet now. Wish we could have done that a long time ago, but it is what it is. As far as the assessment, I also feel that we should not have to pay the full amount due to the excessive truck traffic over the multiple years of the construction projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President and councilors, I just had my question answered. It was whether or not, I understand that there was a lot of traffic during construction, but now that Highland's done, North Highland and Broadway, my question to the residents was, is there still that type of traffic? And the gentleman just said, no, there's no truck traffic and it's signed that way.
Correct.
So there's two different situations, the past situation and the present one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schmitz.
Hi there, my name is Lacey, and I am representing Ridgeway on 23rd, the assisted living that's on. We're located 720 23rd. My only question is, you guys had quoted a rate that is due for residential. Does that price differ for us since we're a business?
Madam President, Lacey, yes, let's see, I'm just scrolling to that property. So when we assign the assessments to the parcels, the multifamily gets a different, what we call, assigns number of units compared to the single unit for a single-family home.
Okay.
So we are proposing to assign 2 units to Ridgeway. So that total amount would be $4,280 based on the frontage along the project.
Okay, alrighty, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to Project 2, does anyone else care to be heard? Project 2 is 11th South Street from Payne Street to Jefferson Street. Third is 5th North Street from Broadway to German Street.
I think we have from 11th.
Oh, sure,
Yep.
for Project 2, sure, come on up.
I like to know what they're doing. That street is in perfect condition. I will say it needs a seal coat, but there's not a hole in it, nothing. So what's the program?
Hi, can you just state your name and your address for the record?
Roger Lund, 1026 South Jefferson.
Thank you.
All right, Madam President, Mr. Lund, roadway was constructed back in 1977. Our latest pavement inspection report gave that a rating of 32, which falls into that failed section. So we felt,
You know, I may just say, there's not much traffic on that road, for one thing, and it's in perfect condition. A seal coat would do a marvelous thing for it.
it's been sealed probably, I guess probably just based on its age, it's probably been sealed probably pushing 10 times maybe, at that age. It's reached the end of its useful life, and it's our staff's opinion that it needs to be replaced. Like I said, it's got a score of a 32, and that's based on a scoring system from 0 to 100.
Why don't you go up 11th Street all the way then? Why that one block?
So like when they introduced the project, so what we tried to do is find segments that are, kind of one-block segments where we anticipate minimal subgrade correction. We don't have underground utilities that need to be reconstructed, and staff felt that it was appropriate for inclusion within the capital improvement program.
Pardon me, but I can't see anything going to do with it, but that's all I had a question for. They wouldn't be digging it all up for any other purpose.
Correct, so it'd be just a removal of the existing bituminous surfacing, shaping, and then
That should
repaving.
be at a lesser cost.
Yep, and those assessment rates are reduced compared to what would be considered a full
Only
reconstruction.
four lots along that block,
Correct, yep.
so we get divided up with 4 people.
Right, like I was stating, the assessments are reduced based on the type of work that is performed, so, yep.
That's what I wanted to find out, but personally, I don't think it needs to be done, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lund. Project 3, 5th North Street from Broadway to German Street. Fifteenth South Street from State Street to Washington Street. And the last project is Summit Avenue from State Park Road to Gulf Drive. At this time, I will note for the record, there were 4 individuals that came up to speak, 3 regarding project number 1, 1 regarding project number 2, with some questions and some concerns.
I do appreciate people coming. I mean, a lot of the questions on 23rd are from my ward, and I have spoken with some of the individuals too, and I understand where they're coming from, but this road has been there for 25 years, and it is in tough shape at this moment. Blame it on whatever it might be, the trucks, but 25 years of a road is going to have wear and tear, and it's going to need a reclamation. This isn't a major one, and one of their concerns was being able to split it up, the payment, so it isn't $2,100 up front. And the other half of things too is these roads can be aesthetically fine on the outside when you look at them, but when you actually know what's going on underneath them, it's a much different story than what you see on the shell of the outside. So I can get where all these are coming from, but they are things that need to be done. Not cutting up roads just for the sake of cutting up roads.
I'm in agreement with Councilor Warmka. City engineer, how long we been doing this again where we started budgeting, knowing we had to catch up on our roads? 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think maybe even longer than that,
Yeah.
Madam President, City Council. We've been doing it ever since I've been here, and that's 18 years.
That long? Again, nobody likes to pay the assessment, but I'm in agreement. We've got to keep up with our streets and whatnot, and this is the way to do it.
Were there any other, written or other correspondence received on any of these projects?
Madam President, City Councilors, I received just a couple emails with some, assessment questions. I think it was 3 in total, but no written objections to the project.
Thank you.
And I think we have to be consistent, we can't just say this road gets less traffic or more traffic, because we don't know where a future detour is gonna have to be for X amount of time, you know? And maintenance. So if we're trying to be proactive, I think we have to support staff's decision to recommend the improvements.
There's no other action. I'm going to offer the resolution closing the public hearing, ordering the 2025 surface reconstruction project, and authorize the street department to construct the project.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. Thank you for everyone who came out today. Item number 3.1 is a taxi license.
What we need more is more reliable transportation in this town, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the issuance of a taxi license to Amillicare Transport LLC, owned by Elmer Rettig, 18624 US Highway 14, New Ulm, Minnesota, for a one taxi vehicle for the period beginning March 19th, 2025, ending June 30th, 2025, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Item 4.1, summary of business conducted during board and commission meetings.
Well, that's right. Number one, I start. Okay. I attended the Park and Rec Commission meeting. Administrative activities were given to us. You will note further down the agenda, they'll be looking for a grant acceptance and also for us to award to a consultant for the Park and Rec comprehensive plan. Also attended the EDA meeting. Again, the business was conducted. One of the better points was, I know you're all aware of, hopefully end of March or shortly after, we will close the deal with Rebound Real Estate and Oak Hills. That was good news. Other activities. Councilor Warmka and myself attended the League of Minnesota Cities on the Hill Day, Capitol Hill. I'm going to defer because I believe it was his first time, and he can give a report on it.
Yeah, I missed my Brown County Solid Waste Advisory Committee because I was at the League of Minnesota Cities City Day on the Hill. It was a very interesting time for me, and again, eye-opening because it was my first time being a part of these things, but getting to visit with our representatives, see what's important to them, and just, actually heard from Governor Walz, too, that came to speak to us. It was pretty uplifting to see we can't make changes on a federal level, but we can make changes in a positive way for our own towns, and it was kind of cool and motivational to hear that. And I know that's how we operate as a council, so, yeah.
Cable Advisory has not met recently, and Heritage Preservation Commission is working on hosting the state convention in September.
From the Sister Cities Commission, we've got dates assigned for our outbound, and we've got dates assigned for our inbound students here. And then our zoning meeting will be moved to the 28th, next Friday at noon for public hearing. And there won't be a meeting on the 27th on Thursday.
You hear anything?
They've already reported on EDA and Sister Cities, but as the mayor, I have a great opportunity to engage in community activities. We had 2 ribbon cuttings since I last reported, True Real Estate and also New Brew, which is, that is located within the Ulm, Sweet Ulm. So we have yet another opportunity for beverages, non-alcoholic. And True Real Estate is in what many of you would know as the Guten Tag House building. I knew it as the Silver Latch restaurant building, so that dates me. Also, I attended the New Ulm Partnership meeting and the report that was provided by New Brick on the potential small house or tiny house project. And the potential of that moving forward was good news. Yesterday, we did St. Patrick's Day. We did. To have the 60th annual parade in New Ulm is something for this German community. And I spent some time with Mary O'Connor, And she shared with me that she was the only one that she was aware of in the building, and that was at the Kaiserhof, that had attended all 60 of the St. Patrick's Day parades. So kudos to Mary O'Connor. And finally, today, I had the opportunity to do a presentation about New Ulm to the Bridging Brown County group, and that was a great experience. There were people representing the rest of the county, including Comfrey, Springfield, and Sleepy Eye. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I don't have anything to report. I was actually at a National Association of Development Organizations conference this month, and I did miss the EDA meeting, but just kind of branching off from that, the reauthorization of EDA happened for the first time in 25 years, and that organization was pretty instrumental in helping to make that happen, and that is good as far as continuing to filter money into our communities where it's needed. So just a little snippet from that. Any other updates?
I got one update. So I was in DC for the National League of Cities Hill Day, and able to meet our federal reps and senators, which was fruitful and it was good. A little chaotic with the congressional resolution wanting to be passed, so there wasn't a shutdown. So, but some of the federal issues that we're looking at would be the tax exempt status for bonds. They're potentially looking at getting rid of that. Estimates are if that does go away, it would be a 2% increase on our costs when we do bonding projects. So we were letting our reps and senators know that we're not on board with that. And then more for our fire department, it was the OSHA it's in the rulemaking session right now, or rulemaking process. OSHA is looking at pushing up the timeline for fire equipment to replace, and that would hurt a lot of small rural fire departments that don't use the equipment on a regular basis. So we're trying to have the senators kind of look at that a little bit more. And then the last kind of major one is why am I blanking? The federal preemptive for zoning at a federal level, getting rid of the single family and being able to expand that to more R2. So they're looking at potentially doing that at a federal level just across the nation. So lobbying against that, still keeping that for local control. So we'll keep you posted if anything comes through.
And that's very important because it would essentially strip every community of its rights to choose how it develops. And to have some of those choices. So if that's something that is of any interest to you, please get involved. And it's kind of, to the counselors, something that we really want to follow as well. Because again, it completely strips us of our local control to develop and make our own choices at the local level. And when that happens, it's not good. All right. Thank you very much. Any other updates? All right, item number 5.1 is North Garden Street layout recommendation from the Safety Commission. Mr. Stadheim?
All right, thank you, Madam President, City Councilors. Just going to give a quick kind of summary of discussion at the March 6, 2025 Safety Commission meeting. Ultimately, the Commission unanimously recommended moving forward with layout option 1, and I'll go through these options in a little more detail. And that includes the layout without the center median. Discussion from the Commission for their recommendation centered on the number of driveway access points along this roadway segment. We're talking specifically between 2nd North and 5th North Streets for this project that's going to take place, or proposed to take place in 2027 on North Garden Street. And then also they had concerns how that would potentially impact snow plowing operations if a center median were to be included with parking allowed on both sides. On the other side of that, we could look at parking restrictions during the winter months that would better allow street department staff to perform those plowing operations. Again, the Commission had concerns with the center median and property owners being able to access their property easily without having to U-turn or come from a different direction with the center median being in place. And they thought there was the potential for increased conflicts with that U-turn movements or additional traffic movements that would be needed because of a median being installed. Other concerns were that residents, if they wanted to back campers or trailers into their property, it may create a little more bottlenecking during those operations. And we touched on the snow plowing a little bit as well. So just a quick overall overview. So this program, or this project is programmed to take place in 2027, again from Center Street to 5th North Street, and potentially with the inclusion of a mini roundabout at 5th North Street. The mini roundabout inclusion at 5th North was overwhelmingly, had overwhelming support. So our consultant working on this project is SEH, and they developed the two options that we'll be looking at here this afternoon. So option number one is to reconstruct the existing 60-foot wide street into a 44-foot wide street, so that would match what is north of 5th North, kind of in front of the hospital and Garden Terrace. That's the same roadway cross-section that exists in that area as well. So that would be 12-foot wide driving lanes, 10-foot wide parking lanes in each direction. Narrower street would result in wider boulevards and driveway approaches. And we're proposing to reconstruct all of the existing sidewalk with new 6-foot sidewalk. Again, similar to what's north of 5th North Street. So here are a couple exhibits showing that. You know, we've talked about, we have submitted that variance application to the state of Minnesota for the 45-degree angled parking. And I'll have that variance committee meeting at the end of the month, hoping we are successful with that variance request. Again, we are proposing bump outs at 1st North and then at 2nd North Street as well. So the rest of the figure from 2nd North to 5th North shows that 44-foot wide street, the wider boulevards. You can see, if you look closely on the existing, or kind of where my cursor's at, that's the existing curb line drawn in. So you can see we're really making those boulevards nice and wide compared to what exists there today. And again, the mini roundabout at 5th North is also shown. As we go through, here's kind of a cross-section view. So this view is if we cut that street in half and look at the ends that we cut. It shows that 10-foot boulevard, 6-foot walk, and then the parking and driving lane configuration. And here's more of a rendering of what that looks like. Pretty much a typical residential street, just it's 4 feet wider than what we typically have in the grid section of town. All right, then option number two is that proposed layout with the center median. So the center median, staff's opinion would be, you know, it would help slow that traffic down a little bit more, you know, because you're narrowing that driving lane up a little bit more with that visual buffer on the driver's side. It provides a refuge for pedestrians. Staff ultimately felt that this would be an option that would, you know, better enhance the safety of the corridor as well. But again, the Safety Commission did have concerns with it that we went through, and concerning, you know, snow plowing and driveway access points. But here's that cross-section view. Plantings in the median are undetermined at this time. That would be something we would work on through project design, but it could be ornamental trees, perennial shrubs, or low-maintenance turf of some fashion. And here's the rendering drawing of that proposed layout. So for the council today, we are looking for your guidance on how you want us to proceed with our consultant engineer. We are at that point now where we need to pick a layout and move forward so our consultant can keep working on it. Budgetary-wise, both options are coming in under the estimated budget that we have for this project, but the layout with the medians adds about $250,000 to the project because of we're in essence, we're doubling the amount of curb and gutter in those 3 blocks. So that carries that little higher price tag. So we did hold an open house for this project as well, and we had, I didn't count, but probably around 24 residents stopped at the open house. I would say maybe 60-40 in favor of the median, but there was no overwhelming majority for one option or another. But we had good discussion with the residents that stopped out, and good question and answer session as well. So, but that would conclude the staff report at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stadheim. I'm just going to share my first thoughts since nobody piped up. While the idea of the median is aesthetically nice, it's going to cost more than $250,000 because you have to think about all that mowing and all the other things that go along with that and the maintenance. And just for something that kind of looks pretty, my natural inclination is to say to save the money.
And I could see where people on that street there, where their aggravation would lie of having to whip a Yui every time to go to their house, or like you said, to back a trailer in. That would be kind of difficult with a big median in the middle. But I do think it does look aesthetically nicer, but I also like the extra big boulevards too. I think that'd look kind of sharp too, going down Garden.
If I may address the council. David Schnubrick, 312 North Garden Street. And I've resided at that location for 42 years. So I've been able to look out my living room window from my sofa and watch traffic on North Garden Street. And I have some observations that I would like to share with you. The first is that I would support layout 2, which is the median. I think there are two reasons that you should take into consideration when you make this decision. The first is public safety. Layout 1 basically takes your roadway from the paved surface from 60 feet, shrinks it down to 44. But essentially, it's the same type of roadway that we have. So you're still going to have the issue of speeding taking place on that roadway. And that's one of the problems that I see on the street. The median provides, I think, for slower speeds because you're going to have the curb side of the roadway, but you're also going to have now a median, so you've kind of got two barriers. That's going to slow things down more. The second thing that the median does is it provides you with a midway point when you're walking or crossing the street, which has always been somewhat of a challenge, especially for the elderly and for kids. I don't know how many times that my wife and myself, when we go on walks, we get close to home and we have to run across the street to beat the oncoming traffic. The second reason that I think you should consider layout 2 is livability, or in other words, making it more residential. Right now on North Garden Street, we have cars, trucks, motorcycles, farm machinery, bikes, school buses, construction equipment, semis. We get it all. And a lot of high school kids in the morning. We also get police cars, ambulances, and sheriff's vehicles on calls. So we get sirens and lights all times during the day. So there's the traffic aspect and there is the noise aspect. So you have the opportunity with this particular project to take some of those negatives and try to turn those into positives. And I would request that, this is an opportunity that's not going to come along probably for maybe another 30, 40 years. So this would be the best time to, obviously, to do it. So we want to slow traffic down. We want to be able to stop at the median. And we want to, I think, increase property values because an improvement like this would have a positive impact on values in that area. I also would like to note that visitors use the street. They're going to Harmon Park, they're going to the rec center, they're going to the schools. And so this stretch of roadway serves as kind of a showcase for the community, or could. And I think a median does a far better job of providing one with an impression of the community than a continuation of, a typical street pattern. The other thing I would note in our comprehensive plan, there's a statement which reads that major roadway corridors should provide a pleasing public landscape. So I think, your adopted comp plan is providing you with some direction in that regard. Regarding the concerns that were expressed, I'll be honest with you, I just never considered those, or those weren't things that I saw, let's put it that way. Regarding accessing your property, yeah, there could be some people having to do U-turns. I'll acknowledge that. At the present time, though, people make U-turns, and the option is if you don't make a U-turn, what you're doing is you're crossing a lane of traffic to get to the lane, to the direction that you want to go. And the vehicles that are supposed to be using this roadway, that's supposed to increase. So that type of movement isn't necessarily, the safest to make. Regarding trailers and campers, if you drive the alleys on either side of North Garden Street, that's where the trailers and campers are. Trucks, there's all sorts of stuff off of those alleys, much like any other alley in the community. So I know of one boat in that stretch that I've seen. I don't, to be honest with you, I haven't seen the types of campers that that are of a large size. People easily can back them into their driveways if in my opinion, if that's what they have. The driveways tend to be a little bit short, so they're not necessarily able to accommodate larger vehicles. When it comes to snow plowing, I guess I've never been plowed in 42 years, and I think that's because it was very evident early on that with a 60-foot wide stretch of pavement, that if you get plowed in, you're going to be spending a lot of time getting plowed out or shoveling out. So that lesson, I think, most people in that area know that. And so I don't see a lot of parking on street. Last night I went out at 10 o'clock, one car on the street. This morning at 8 o'clock, one car on the street. So I just don't see that that's an issue. If it is an issue, I think Mr. Stadtheim said, sign it, take care of it that way. I think that'd be great. I think people have other places to be able to park when there's a snow coming. Tonight would be a good opportunity to see that in action. And I expect if you went down there tonight at about 10 o'clock, look at the street, see how many cars are on the street. There won't be many. It's not like Fifth North or other major streets that seem to have more on-street parking. For whatever reason, we don't have that down there. that would conclude my staff, or not, yeah, it's not a staff report, my comments.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Schnobrick.
President and councilors, I have some questions and comments on this opportunity here. I think I heard Engineer Stadheim say the project goes from Center Street to Fifth North. I thought it was just First North to Fifth North.
We're going, Madam President, City Councilors, we're going slightly south of First. We're not going all the way to Center Street, but
Okay.
we are stopping short,
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
a quarter of the way down. But
Thank you.
Yep.
And then I thought I heard Engineer Stadheim say that the staff recommendation was option 2 with the median. I'd like to hear from the Public Works Director on potential plowing issues or public works issues.
When I said staff preference, that was engineering department's preference.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
yep.
Madam President, councilors, city councilors. Jeff Huffman, City and Home Public Works Superintendent. With a 14-foot driving lane, our front plows are 13 feet. That's not with our wing hanging outside of the truck. So, I mean, it's going to be tight with a car parked there. It's going to be very tight. And if we would get a lot of snow, because we're going to have to plow, lift up our wing, go around, drop our wing again, we'd be putting a nice windrow right beside that car. So it's going to be very tight. And if we would get a lot of snow, it pushes away from the curb. You don't get tight to the curb over the year, and the cars park out further then. So I can see this being a very big problem with our snow plowing. If you would sign it, no parking from November 1st to April 1st, we're fine with it. It's going to be a problem snow plowing it. The 14-foot lane in our front plow, like I said, is 13 feet.
Yeah, that makes good sense. I mean, are there ways of making it a winter route or like winter advisory route or something along those lines that
I mean,
residents
like I
have to
said,
know
if
if
you
it
sign it, no
snows or?
parking through
Yeah.
the winter, I'm fine with it.
I think that'd be fair, especially if it's not a major parking issue the way it is. But yeah, that sounds like a nightmare, trying to sneak a foot in.
I mean, question for city engineer, does every resident down there have access to the rear for parking to their property?
Madam President, City Councilors, both sides of the roadway have alley access, yes. Yep.
So basically, it could be, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
could be addressed.
Okay, Madam President and councilors, I still have some comments and questions here. Thank you. I fully support the safety first philosophy. I think bicycling and pedestrian movement is critically important for our community as a whole. I also agree that this is a unique and rare opportunity for us to consider this type of an improvement. Personally, I'm leaning towards option 2 with the median. But another question for the engineer Stadheim is, are we doing this project because the roads failed or failing? The road needs to be
Failed, yep.
rebuilt,
Yep,
correct?
correct,
Okay,
yep.
so that's why this is coming in, and it's just 2 years out. We're talking the construction season of 27.
Construction season of 27. Just for some background, we've received roughly, where are we at, 3.5-ish million in federal grant funding for, it's through MnDOT, it's STP, small urban funding for to fund the majority of the roadway reconstruction for the project. So being with that federal funding involved in this project, we have to do some environmental research and things of that nature to get all the proper permitting for the project to move forward. That's why we're starting so early on it, and then really to develop project plans and project memorandums and get all that through to the state, MnDOT's state aid office for review and whatnot. And
Okay.
it just takes time.
Thank
So,
you.
yep.
I'm also kind of questioning the status quo. We don't have an option to just rehabilitate as is, or that's not really something we're considering.
So the road was, I think, aged, it's about 70 years old from when it was originally constructed. It's far beyond its useful life. The curb and gutter is in really poor shape.
But I mean, leaving the arrangement the way it is now, the same bituminous width, curb and gutter, where both of these two options are changes to the status quo. Was
Got it.
the present design considered?
No, it was not. The existing 60-foot wide pavement, especially from Second to Fifth, is very unique in that regard that we just don't have roadway segments that wide on our local system. We don't need the 60 feet. It's way too much impervious surface for the type of roadway that it is. So at a minimum, we feel it's necessary to reduce that roadway width. 60-foot wide streets promote excessive speeds, in which we probably all experienced that in that segment. And
I've bicycled the entire length of Garden from the extreme north to the southern terminus many, many, many times. And that one stretch from Fifth North to Center is kind of a breath of fresh air from a bicyclist standpoint for safety. But I do understand these new options. Possibly my last question has to do with maintenance on the center medians. I understand the situation we've had for quite some time on Center Street and Broadway with medians. Are there any low maintenance? There's probably no options for no maintenance, but are there any low maintenance options for medians?
Yes, there is, concrete.
Madam President, City Councilors, we've done our office has done just a little bit of research, just, what could we plant there if the medians are chosen, and we go forward with that. And we've been looking at like sedge type planting, ornamental trees, maybe some flowering perennials, things of that nature. We believe the sedge would provide that ground cover that would be needed, and then also provide opportunity for a very low maintenance planting. But we haven't progressed far enough to really determine, this is what we want to plant, but we would have the 2 years to really sort through that and figure out exactly what we would feel would be appropriate.
Thank you. I also support the greening of our community, so I will still state my preference for option 2 with the median. Thank you.
I have one more thing to add. This route is on our priority route because the hospital's close by. So on a snow event, we plow by there a lot. We keep going, to keep them priority open during a snow event. So just so you have that in mind.
Request to the commissioner here was, is council on board that we make that a snow emergency route, no parking, X amount hours or months? Because I do realize what it is like to plow a 14-foot street with a wing and a car on it. It's impossible.
Yeah, with that center median there, you can't plow anywhere.
It's impossible.
You're stuck. I would request that you have no parking from November 15th to March, or the end of the March, April 1st. No parking at all. Because otherwise, during the day, if it's snowing and there's a car there, we're going to have trouble.
I mean, I just want to make sure everything's really getting thought about. And there's been a lot of very, very good points brought up. But to say that putting a median in is going to reduce the amount of fire truck and ambulance and motorcycle and bicycle and, kids driving to school, like that traffic, this is the road. This is where they go. There's no other way for them to go unless they go up and then go on Highland. And, so I'm looking at both, and I'm always for safety and for safety enhancements, but I'm not sold on the median just yet. I don't know. I feel like the maintenance on it, and again, I'm all for greening, but again, we have lots of parks and everything. I don't know. Give me some comments. Help me out, you guys.
My opinion is I do prefer the median. I like the safety factor of it with the parks that we have there, with the amount of little kids, with the amount of teenage kids that have to cross that road, biking or walking. I like the idea of them having an island to get to. I also would strongly agree with it being a winter route, that there is no parking. If we do this, that I think that is the only option to do, because, you have a day that snows a foot like it's maybe supposed to, yeah, that car, there's no way you're plowing that. And I do like the greening. I mean, I'm very forward with, the renderings are beautiful. I like the idea. I like the idea of people driving a little slower on that and the Safe Routes to School plan. It would, having it a little tighter like that, that does make people a little more cautious of what they're doing.
You know, when I looked them over this weekend, both plans, and, you know, option 2 stood out to me. And, you know, and also trying to be consistent with our comp plan, that we're trying to be safer roads, walkways, and we have a rare opportunity here that was, you know, Mr. Schnellberg gave as an example, that the road doesn't get redone, you know, every day. And, you know, and it's a wide road, wider than normal road within our community. So I like option 2.
And as City Engineer Stadheim said, majority of this is covered by a grant. I mean, that assessments aren't going to be out of control for such a major project like this, so that's quite helpful.
I guess another question for the city engineer would be, is this going to be like a 4-inch thickness road, or a 5 or 6, or because it's heavy of traffic road?
Madam President, City Councilor, so the roadway design will be a 10-ton street, and we generally even beef it up a little bit heavier than that. So yeah, it'll be, you know, what we consider the truck route pavement. But,
Okay. And we got 70 years out of this road, if I'm hearing now.
And I'm assuming
Important,
the park director just stepped up. These 3 blocks will fall under the park department for maintenance? I know it will, I mean.
Yeah, we haven't had those internal discussions yet for future maintenance, but it's conversations we need to have if we're going to move forward with this option.
Council President Betker, City Council, I do have one question, not related to the maintenance, but to safety measures. That bump out demonstration that was temporary is a permanent bump out part of this project as well, right across from Harmon Park, if you remember that. So with or without either option, is that bump out still part of this project?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So.
Yeah, and
mean,
it'll
that's- and
actually be
that's-
enhanced with RFBs and whatnot, so there'll be other enhancements in the proximity of the park as well.
And I mean, that's really something that is the important piece, and one of the things that I'm trying to consider, because I'm really trying to look at, like, and I love this idea, and I want the green and the space, but I just want to make sure that we're really considering everything and having that safe way to cross from First South to Harmon Park. I mean, that is very important. And then having that on Fifth North, having that roundabout there. I don't know, maybe I'm missing this. And I used to live right in that area for 10 years. How many people are crossing, second or third or fourth south, to go to the other side of Garden Street? That I'm not aware of, but I don't know. Yes, obviously I'm for the median and the safety thing, but I just want to make sure that we're really considering everything, moving ahead. But Mayor, I would like to see what comments you have. Again.
Green space is always great, but I know from observing Center Street and Broadway, there's been plantings and then there's been no plantings because maintaining them seems to have been an issue. And there's been shrubs and then there's been no shrubs. So while they're great, I think that we have to make sure that we are committed to taking care of them. Garden Street from Fifth North to Center is the gateway to a lot that goes on when we look at our recreation center and also Harmon Park and Herman. All that we have to share with our community as well as visitors takes place down there. I have been concerned about the safety of crossing over from Harmon, across Garden Street to get to your vehicles. And I like what they have been doing with, I try to explain this to residents that are grousing to me about that. It shortens the distance, the amount of roadway you have to cross. And so I advocate for that. But I'm also, when I was listening to the conversations, if we look at option 1, we are narrowing the street, so you don't have as much street to cross. We are making the boulevards wider, which gives you green space option as well. So I am sitting here listening to both sides, and I can't sit here right now and say which option I prefer. This is new for me to look at, and I'm going to have to look at it and digest the information that we've heard today. I think both of them are going to be an improvement for the community, and there's pros and cons for both of them.
Let me be a monkey with a wrench, because that's what I do. Looking at option one, I talked with Joe about this. There is a potential third option, whether, because again, speed, you'll have the bump outs just at Harmon Park area. The rest of the block is still, that distance. And you can potentially put bump outs at every intersection to close that distance and slow cars down as they're going through the intersection. And I'm pretty sure we can all attest that the bump outs work, at Fifth North by the school there. So again, that potentially is another option where we would just bump the curbs out if you go with option one. That is something, as a compromise where the street is still open, we can get the plows through, allows a little more wiggle room for ambulances to get through than having a median there. But again, that's just another piece of that
More
pie.
kind of like a hybrid option because we could easily put those bump outs or curb extensions at the north side of Second, Third. Fourth might get there's a driveway we have to contend with. It might get a little tricky, but I think that would be something that could be accommodated as well.
President and councilors, I just have a few more comments to add with this discussion. Over the decades, I've seen an enormous amount of pedestrian traffic from the Newax campus, Cathedral to Harmon Park, not only during the football season, but at other times. And also, option two is only proposing 3 medians. It's not like many medians. It's only 3. The mid-block crossing on Garden Street by the Recreation Center is phenomenal and super safe and very effective. I've seen enormous numbers of youth and adults use that. And I fully support bump outs wherever and whenever feasible. Thank you.
I've got a question for the city engineer. This project kind of reminds me of like North Highland up near the high school. So we've got center medians and where homeowners have to go down a block and, turn around or U-turn, and could be very similar. But is the road about the same width there? Or do we have a...
Off the top of my head, we might be proposing slightly narrower, but it's
Slightly
going to be
narrower?
very, very
Very
close.
close.
Yep.
I seem to recall North Highland was designed to actually have 4 lanes of
Correct,
traffic,
yeah.
2
So
lanes
it
in
might
each
be-
direction.
Might be a couple feet wider, but
Okay.
Well, President and councilors, I'm willing to make a motion to direct staff to move forward with layout option number 2 for the 2027 North Garden Street project for the area between 2nd North Street and 5th North Street.
Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
I guess the only additional discussion would be this potential hybrid third option that was brought up of no median, but bump outs at each and every intersection.
I do like having that potential. And again, it's not that I don't want the median, and it's not that I'm not thinking about safety issues, but I'm trying to think practically. I'm really thinking long-term, what makes the most sense. When you think about roadways now versus 20 years ago and the safety enhancements that are available through lighted crosswalks, through the bump outs, through some of this untechnical technology, that has helped to make our roads and streets safer. Adding all of that extra grass and the trees and the bushes and the shrubs. I mean, we're trying to really get our park and rec budget in check, and we just keep adding, and we keep adding, and we keep adding, and we can't. I don't know that I can keep doing it. So for that reason, I would absolutely be in support of kind of hybrid option number 3, but I can't be fully in support of option number 2.
If you go with option 2, would the parking enforcement be involved?
Is there any discussion on option 3, the super secret hybrid option? That gives you some flexibility. Oh, okay. Sometimes, hey, this is the first time. If I'm the only one, I'm the only one.
Well, I'll make a comment. I think option 3 is something we certainly should consider or could consider. I like the bump outs to cross in those areas, again, because of the a lot of foot traffic that we have on that corridor.
I still like the option of the islands. With kids and senior citizens trying to get across it, it is safer. If you really think about it, some of those areas, people are going fast.
Okay, any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Oh, that was hard. All right, item numbers.
I need to call a roll then.
Oh, yes, thank you. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
And President Becker?
No, but the motion passes. Thank you so much. Item number 6 under new business, columbinarium at the city cemetery.
Here, I'll knock this one out of the park. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the purchase of an installation of a 168 niche, 7-foot-high octagon columbarium with a 5-foot sidewalk around the columbarium at the city cemetery.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Counselor Warmka been doing his homework on.
Just going to say, I love this idea.
Yes, absolutely. Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item 6.2, the PLRAC, Prairie Lakes Arts and Cultural Heritage Music Festival grants acceptance. Mr. Schugel.
Yes, Council President Betker, City Council, on February 18th, you authorized staff to apply for the Prairie Lakes Regional Art Council Art and Heritage Cultural Grant. Staff applied for $6,000 for the summer concert series, and happy to announce that we were awarded that $6,000. So asking for acceptance today. Those funds would go to performers at summer concert series as well as free activities in the park.
Well, I'm going to offer a resolution accepting the Prairie Lakes Regional Arts Council for the Arts and Cultural Heritage Arts and Music Festivals Grant in the amount of $6,000 for the summer concert series in German Park.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Thank you for what you're doing with this, Joey. That's awesome program. Very good use of the park. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. Item 6.3, Park and Recreation Master Plan, consultant selection. Once again, Mr. Schugel.
Yes, Council President Betker, City Council. This is a request to award a service or consulting services to ISG for our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. As you recall, this was a budgeted item for 2025. The process went to RFP. We had 9 qualifying proposals come in. We had a scoring committee from there. Score those all 9 proposals, narrowed it down to the top 3, and the top 3 then presented at a Park and Rec work session, commission work session. And at our regular meeting on March 10th, the Park and Rec Commission regular meeting, they selected ISG and are recommending that for approval. If approved tonight, our city attorney then would finalize the contract and then ask for authorization from the city manager and finance director to sign.
Thank you very much.
President and Councilors, I'd like to make a motion to award the consulting services contract to ISG Group Incorporated, ISG, for the Park and Recreation Master Plan in the amount of $89,600, including the possible additional services of up to $15,500.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Item 6.4, approval of proposed grade changes for exempt level positions.
All right,
Ms.
thank
Bloomgarden.
you, President Becker and councilors. So in 2024, the city conducted a compensation and classification study with Flaherty and Hood. The findings were presented in a closed session in August of 2024. The study recommends implementing exempt level grade changes in mid-25 to reflect updated duties, qualifications, departmental needs, and then address also the salary compression issue that we have. These adjustments will help ensure the city remains competitive in attracting and retaining talent, while also maintaining fairness and consistency across the workforce. So the necessary adjustments were budgeted for, and currently wages average just $1.44 per hour above the median for comparable positions, highlighting the importance of these changes so that we can remain competitive. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
I mean, being you did a good job and we all knew this was coming, I'm going to approve the proposed grade and point adjustments for exempt level positions effective June 22, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item 6.5, first consideration of ordinance number 25-TBD, Chapter 4, Cannabis and Hemp Retail Business and Temporary Cannabis Events.
I just want to make sure, David, are you online?
So are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can hear
sir.
you now. Okay, perfect.
Okay, great, thank you.
Council President, councilors, before you have the first consideration of the cannabis and hemp retail and business temporary events registration. And David from Flaherty and Hood did a very good job putting a draft together. And then myself, Danielle, and Janine, technically the people who are going to be overseeing the registration, and with the help of Nicole, have gone through the draft and made recommendations for David to put together. The initial draft was really good. I think it works with kind of the framework we've been given so far from the Office of Cannabis Management. So the things that are in the ordinance that we really want you to consider were things that we have talked about before. The first one was the limitation on registration. We talked about potentially doing 3. It is our recommendation to have 2 at this point. And if for whatever reason a third license comes in, it's easier to go up to 3 than down. So we would be recommending 2 at this point. The fees for both registration and renewal. In doing research, we are recommending $350 for registration and $700 for renewal. This would be in line with what Mankato is doing for their licensing fee. The hours of operation, it's stated in there Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. I would recommend just making it 10 to 10 all week long, just simple and easy. Operating hours for temporary cannabis events, I would recommend the 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., just be consistent across the board. And then the on-site consumption at temporary cannabis events, there are 3 different options available, and we would recommend having the discussion, and maybe David can chime in on the 3 different on-site, but basically one is not allowing it. Second one would be not allowing or allowing it in private businesses to consume, but then they'd also not have to regulate smoking because smoking is still technically illegal. And then the third one is allowing it outside, but in a commercially graded fenced area. So again, and David, if you want to chime in a little bit more on the specifics of those, again, not that I would say probably the first option is probably the way I would go. It just makes it a little bit easier. But David, if you want to chime in on the 3 different options to explain a little bit more, so council has more information.
Yep, thank you, and thank you, council. The 3 options, essentially the statute lays out that the city can regulate or prohibit on-site consumption at these cannabis events. I think with a lot of this sort of cannabis stuff, we're not certain at this moment what these events will necessarily look like. But if the city's interested in these restrictions, you know, I think it could be addressed certainly in the ordinance here, whether that's prohibiting on-site consumption, limiting it to events happening inside, essentially where the Clean Indoor Air Act will apply, prohibiting smoking inside. And then under the draft rules is where you get that language that if there is on-site consumption, it's to be done in sort of a separate fenced-off area. And so that's why that language is in that last option. If the option is to potentially allow it, the city would still have the option as each event permit comes in to deny or approve, or we could put in the blanket, denial of on-site consumption in the ordinance.
I would strongly be in favor, if I'm just jumping in there, of not allowing any form of consumption in business. I just think that's the safest way to go. And I finally had my first voice of discontent that came to speak with me this last week here, and that was his main thing. He goes, I just don't want to smell it in any form of business. I don't want to smell it outside. That was a big deal for him. He didn't want it at all, but we're past that part. And I also like the 10 to 10 option. I think that's fair, that's safe, that's easy to monitor. But yeah, I strongly would say no consumption on premises.
I would agree with that also, and I like the 10 to 10 too, and try to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I'll agree with what Councilor Mack and Warmka just said. That's what I support also.
That would just be for temporary cannabis events. So,
Right.
because I know, depending on the license they get for retail, there potentially could be on-site consumption in that that one business.
I support it as well. In regards to the hours of operation, I do like giving them another 10 hours a week to operate. I don't know that we should restrict that. If 8 a.m. is okay, Sunday 10 to 10, that's fine. But during the week, I think they should be allowed to open at 8 a.m. if they want. And if they don't want to be open till 10, they don't have to be. But I'm not for restricting the business hours for something like that. If we're already giving them at least 12 hours a day, I think they can make their own choice.
I did look up a couple other states that I do this, and for some reason, 10 a.m. is one of the chosen times for open operation. I don't know why that is. It's just a constant, and quite a few. I just looked up retailers, and it caught a curiosity.
What is this? What is the statute on that there?
So basically, the state has set the hours Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10, and then Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But they have given local jurisdictions the ability to limit that first 2 hours to move it to 10. You can do 9 or 10, but you cannot change the hours of closing.
We don't even have any of our potential businesses here tonight
Not today.
to ask them if, they're in favor of it or not,
I'm assuming they probably come at the second consideration.
Yeah.
This is first.
This is first, so.
So again, we can kind of walk through. So is the council okay with 2 licenses?
Yes.
For us to start? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
And you're okay with the registration and renewal fee? So registration would be $350, and then the renewal would be up to $700.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then hours of operation. I know there was some discussion, so however you guys want to move on that one.
President and councilors, I do kind of like the consistency aspect that the manager has mentioned, but I also prefer, not over-regulating, so to speak, when a business person wants to open their business to customers. I also kind of view some of this aspect as related to our alcohol ordinance. And I agree, I think, with President Bedker that we can allow businesses to open at 8 a.m. if they want to. We're not talking about 6 a.m. or something like that. 8 a.m. is a traditional opening for many businesses. So that's
Fair
my
point,
comment.
Councilman Schmidt. Yeah, you're right. They may choose to open at 10 regardless, but, so I guess not
think we're-
strong in that one.
But we're doing the first reading today, you know, they can come to the second reading and we
Mhm.
might hear that. There'll be some news about this in the local paper and everything, so we'll get the feedback.
So for the initial, you want to keep it 8 a.m. to 10
Let's just
p.m.?
keep it there and we can have a discussion on the second, I'd say.
Okay. Yep. And then temporary cannabis events, are you fine with 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. or do you want to do the potentially 8 to 10?
No, 10 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Okay,
For
perfect.
events. I don't know, you guys.
And
I
then-
agree with, I mean, I view these temporary events as similar to maybe a beer garden. So I think 10 to 10 is fine with me.
Right, and then kind of the last one, the on-site consumption, just a no-go.
No-go.
Okay.
Wait, on-site consumption at
Uh,
temporary cannabis
cannabis, yep.
events. So does that mean I have a question on that. On-site consumption, is that all forms of cannabis, including like liquid and gummies and those kind of things? For the attorney?
Yes, thank you, council. That would apply to all consumption.
President and councilors, I still come back to this thought of these cannabis temporary events. Are they somewhat similar to a, temporary beer garden where you would have music and activities? We're not allowing cannabis in parks, correct? So
Yep.
this would be on private property. I just know that nationwide, I've seen and heard about these events in different states and different areas. And part of the event, I'm sure, is consumption. I presume sales and educational components are part of these events.
And David, and maybe this is a question to you. Would we be able to change that to not allow on-site consumption for flower and cannabis products, but still allow the low potency hemp edibles and or beverages, like low potency stuff, and just ban the smoking?
Thank you. I might have to look into that and get back to you on that. I think, sitting here now, the city's allowed to, adopt restrictions on that.
Okay.
There are already restrictions in the law that require that you cannot, smoke or vape cannabis, where it can be inhaled by, people under the age of 18. So that's already a restriction that they would certainly have to comply with at any of these cannabis events.
Okay.
They can't permit smoking indoors already. So I think it sounds reasonable to me, but I can double check and report back to council.
That's fine.
Okay.
Mayor, any comments?
I guess, explain to me what a temporary cannabis event would be.
I pulled up that definition.
I mean,
Basically, it's an potential outdoor retail event where you could, let's see.
How about we read it right off the chart? Temporary cannabis event means a cannabis event lasting no more than 4 days, organized by a holder of a cannabis event organizer license pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 34239 and subject to all the requirements of the state statutes. That's what it is.
There you go.
No consumption at that event?
Temporary cannabis event. Temporary. We're only going to up to 4 days.
Yeah, so yes, you would be able to, but a local unit of government can restrict that.
It would be allowing a Woodstock 2025.
Yeah, they can have access to areas where consumption of adult use cannabis flower, adult use cannabis products are allowed, is allowed, but shall be restricted to individuals who are at least 21 or older.
I don't know, I'm feeling good about all these, but number 5, I still maybe need a little bit more information.
Kind of wonder where they would host something like that for, if we're within 500 feet from a park, so far from a school, so far from,
Right, on
these
private
activities,
property,
how
not
do we handle that, or,
indoors, all the things.
I mean, if we did say that we don't want to allow it like it's written, would that just mean we're not in favor of temporary festivals being held in town?
Pretty much.
I mean, you can have a festival, but you can't use it. It's not a really good festival, but
That's my question.
President and Councilors, I'd just like to
I'm
review
okay with that.
these three options. The first option is not at all. And the third option is to allow it in a commercial grade fenced area. Correct?
Yep.
Can I get another explanation on that second option?
The second option, thank you, council. The second option prohibits use in a sort of outdoor area at the event.
Okay, so it prohibits it outdoors, but you could do it indoors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but you cannot smoke indoors under the statute.
So it would be edibles and beverages.
Inside,
Yeah.
so that could be like an open house maybe, if they're having, an event and they're gonna do anything that's smokeless.
Fairgrounds would probably be a good example of that, where you can have stuff outside, but you would go inside to one of the buildings to potentially consume.
But no smoking anywhere.
Yeah.
In option 2.
You just used the fairgrounds as an example, but would our civic center be considered like part of our park? Because it's our
It's
park
public
system?
space.
But there's a school right there.
Yeah, school, and it's a public space.
Learning curve here and
And
the scenarios.
I would say, after this is adopted and the Office of Cannabis Management gets up and running, there will be changes to some of this moving forward, what works, what doesn't work. So this is everyone's kind of best attempt at the information that's been given us so far to try and comply and do the things we need to do. And we can do
Council,
more
if I may
research.
jump in.
Sure,
Go ahead, David.
certainly.
Sorry, just following up on the question regarding smoking. So under that statute, subdivision 8E, I believe the city, if the city were leaning towards, potentially permitting some on-site consumption and restricting smoking, sort of more generally, I think that would be permitted under the law.
Okay.
If that's an option the city's considering.
Thank you. And just kind of from what I'm gathering from the conversations, that kind of sounds like how we're leaning potentially.
Well, President and Councilors, I'm kind of leaning towards the potential of less regulation on this and looking at option 3. If they're going to have an event, I think they're going to want to have all aspects of the event available to them. So that's just where I'm thinking at this point in time.
I guess if they come to want to hold one of these events, they'll come before the council for permission in a designated location that meets the requirements.
And then between now and then, we'll look at what commercial grade fencing is and what that'll look like. Because again, we know how fencing works sometimes at events.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Any other comments? So have we kind of come to a leaning on number 5, I guess? I guess I would say I would lean with Counselor Schmitz, to not regulate, and if they come to us with an appropriate location that meets the needs, and, we always still have the ability to do those one by one, but I think with the restrictions as it is, people are going to be hard pressed to find somewhere in New Ulm that would work, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with that too.
I'm okay with
Less
that.
regulation, I'm fine. I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion to conduct the first consideration of ordinance number 25-TBD, amending chapter 4, adding a new section 4.68 of the city code of the city of New Ulm relative to cannabis and hemp retail businesses and temporary cannabis events, regulating the sale of cannabis and hemp products in the city of New Ulm.
Second.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. That motion does carry. At this time, we do have an addendum under new business. So I would be looking to suspend the rules so that we can take action on this singular item.
I would make that motion.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and to add the addendum. Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. That motion does carry. On the addendum tonight, we have one item under new business, item 1.1, which is in regards to a Minnesota Department of Public Safety pre-disaster mitigation grant agreement.
And city councilors, after almost a year from our notification of award of these federal funds, we finally have a grant agreement to execute. So we are looking for approval of that grant agreement, and this is with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. This is a pre-disaster mitigation grant agreement, and authorizing the city manager and finance director to execute the agreement for the city. So these are FEMA funds that were awarded to the city as part of the congressionally directed spending award that we submitted in 2023. So we were notified in fall of '23 that we were included in the bill. The bill was signed into law in early 2024. And that's when we started the process working with FEMA at the time to complete the FEMA grant application. That FEMA grant application was approved, and then FEMA funnels that funding through to HSEM, and we had to complete a grant agreement with HSEM. So this process has taken quite some time. We're at the finish line, so we can begin project design and hopefully construction this fall, but I'm not sure with lead times if we'll be able to get that completed this construction season or not. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
President and councilors, I'd like to offer the resolution approving the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management Division 2024 Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant Agreement, and authorize the city manager and finance director to execute the grant agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just the discussion, President and councilors, that this is an anti-flooding infrastructure. I think it's critical and important to protect our infrastructure and the levee we have now on the Minnesota River. Thank you.
And yes, that is correct. Flood mitigation is, well, very important in our area with our proximity to so much water. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
Counselor Schmitz?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. And with no additional business today, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
That money before they have FEMA.
Yeah, I know, yeah.